Got a little Prezi for you guys. Basically, how you guys get your first or next SMMA client on only 250 to 500 DMs. Now, I'm going to show you something right off the bat. Okay. You've probably seen a webinar like this before, right? You've probably seen a slideshow. You've probably seen some big, bold headline like this. And this is probably your first rodeo. This is probably the first time you watch a YouTube video with somebody that's going to jump on and claim to change your life. But I got good news for you. Okay. I'm going to scroll all the way to the end of this presentation, and you're going to see here. This is the last slide. Okay. The second last slide, and then this is the last slide. So I have nothing to sell you. There's no sales pitch. I'm legitimately going to be taking the next hour of my time to sharing you everything that I have done to help literally thousands of people get their first client, right? So if you're stuck in your agency, if you've been at this for months, if you've been setting outreach, you're not getting responses, you're not getting leads, you're not getting calls, maybe you are getting calls, but you can't close them. I'm going to cover everything that you need to do from head to toe to make sure that you can get your first client in the next 250 to 500 DMs so you can finally actually start building your agency. So I know that you're sitting there thinking, I want to be like this, I want to be like this, I want to be like this, and it's eating you in the inside that you're not actually that person. Well, my goal for this is to give you everything that you guys need to actually become that person that you want to be. Okay. So I'm going to pop this up into full screen. And then Stefan and I, obviously, we've been working together for quite some time. So he's very well versed on these topics and whatnot as well. As I go through them, Stefan and I will kind of tag team this presentation here together. Okay. So how to get your first or next SMMA client in only 250 to 500 DMs. And more importantly, earn the right to look everyone who is doubting you in the eye, including yourself, and say that you were wrong. That's what you really want. You don't really want a first client. You want to be able to do this. Okay. So my question to you guys is that if you had 100% belief that you would get your first client after sending 500 DMs, would you do it? If I had to guess, the answer is probably yes. Okay. And if I had to guess the answer, if you haven't sent 500 DMs yet, it's because you are not of 100% belief that that would get you your first client. And maybe if you've already sent 500 DMs and you haven't gotten your first client, you are not of 100% belief that if you send another 100 DMs, you'll get a client, right? But, take all those scenarios, throw them out the window. If you had 100% belief that you would get your first client after sending another 500 DMs, would you do it? No matter how close you are to quitting, I guarantee you your answer would be yes. Okay. And I have a story, well, not my story, but some of you guys may have heard of Roger Bannister. Okay. Roger Bannister was the first person to ever run a sub 4 minute mile, right? Now, why was that impressive? Well, because for decades and centuries, it was believed that running a sub 4 minute mile was impossible. It was believed that if somebody was to do that, their heart would explode. Okay. Roger Bannister didn't listen to the critics. He went out there and he ran a mile in 3 minutes and 58 seconds. People have been trying this for centuries and nobody had done it. Okay. But the real crazy thing is what happened just 6 weeks later, right? After this monumental athletic milestone was broken, after the ceiling was shattered, John Landy just 6 weeks later beat Roger Bannister's record. And he ran a mile in 3 minutes and 57 seconds. So they'd been on centuries and nobody's done it. One person does it. 6 weeks later, another person beats him. And the first year, 36 people broke the 4 minute mile. The following year, over 1,000 people did it. There was no changes to their running. There was no changes to their shoes. There was no changes to their training. There was no change to their equipment. The only difference between before and after is now they believe that it was possible, and so they made it happen. Okay. So I'm going to get you to believe that using this 4-step framework is the key to opening the floodgates of new clients within your agency. Okay. And if I get you to believe this, I want to ask you, will you go all in? I don't need you to type. I don't need you to leave a comment. I just need to, a mental commitment. I need you to say to yourself that you will go all in if you believe this.
Say it out loud right now. If you're going to go all in, I want you to say it out loud. Okay.
So at the beginning of the call, Stefan, tried to pump my tires up to make myself look good too, so you guys would pay attention to me. But just a quick story about me. Back in 2019, I was broke. I was stuck in the rat race. I was in school. I hated school. I was sitting there in class. I was literally the only person in my entire class. And there was like 500 kids in my class that wanted to become an entrepreneur. That's when I knew I was in the wrong spot. So I made the commitment to leave school. I bought a camera. I started working for people for free, doing video work, doing photography work, just random odd and end jobs to build up a network. And then, fast forward through blood, sweat, and tears. Listen, I was doing 10K a month before I even searched up SMMA. I didn't even know who Iman Gadzhi was. I took a completely unconventional path, which has served me well because now it allows me to, look at things from a complete different perspective than what all the other, gurus and stuff are doing on the market today. But within 2 years, I had served well over 200 clients within my agency. I was recognized as the top young entrepreneur of the year in my city, and I had all these, accolades and whatnot. I then went and built another agency from 0 to 25K a month in 4 weeks, and I've partnered with a bunch of other people through RSC, and we are doing, I guess you could say, some would say we are doing quite well for ourselves right now. Okay. And then some of you guys may have heard of Tony Lee. I met Tony Lee when he was broke, like had nothing to his name. I think he had like less than $100 in his bank account. He was just going to school. As he started to get a little bit of traction, I ended up partnering with him. And then shortly after that partnership, he, hit his first 17 grand a month, which is when he started to get clout on Joel Kaplan's YouTube channel. And well, that's probably how you know Tony Lee. And what we did in order to get from him being a broke university dropout to a $17,000 a month as an MMA owner is everything that I'm going to share with you inside this presentation. Okay. Some of you guys may have heard of Kendrick. I think he's been on been on Stefan's YouTube channel before. Yeah. He was signing $1,000 retainer from this lesson, right? He's not even in RSC, or he wasn't even in RSC at the time, right? He literally just took everything that we share for free in this lesson and he actually implemented it and he signed $1,000 retainer from this lesson while living in the Philippines. Okay. Ishmael, right? When I met Ishmael, he was broke and honestly doesn't even have the best English, right? He's an immigrant. He's from another country. He moved here and he tried 9 businesses before they'd all failed. SMMA was his 10th and final attempt at running a business before he was going to succumb to a 9-to-5, right? He started his agency. When I met him, he didn't even have a single client in exactly 5 months. And 29 days later, he hit his goal. He owns a 6-figure agency now and he does over 10K a month. All from the things that we're going to share with you guys in this video, okay? Now, I understand you guys are going to think that there's a lot of obstacles that are going to get in the way, or you guys are making a lot of excuses as to why you guys aren't successful or aren't as successful as you should be. Okay. And the first reason, you might be thinking is money. Well, some of you guys may know Wyatt. I don't know if Wyatt's been on your channel. Wyatt's he's an RC regular, right? And when we first met Wyatt, he was in debt. So he actually got charged by the real world. So he's actually $25 in debt, right? And he took everything that we talk about that I'm going to share with you guys in this video for free. He implemented it and then he got 3 clients. Well, he had negative $25 in his bank account, right? So if money is your problem, it is not your problem anymore with this lesson. Time, okay? Cannon. When I met Cannon, he was in the military, he had a wife, he had a family, and he was moving into a new apartment all at the same time while trying to run an SMMA. He implemented everything that we're going to talk about in this video. This is him when he was just getting started with his agency and he's done over 10K now, okay? While in the military, while literally having no time. Ability. This is Ali Sinar. Started this agency 2 days ago, but he got his first client in 2 days. And this was I think he ended up getting 3 clients in 2 weeks. He's 14 years old and he lives in Turkey. So if Ali can do this at 14 years old by following the exact steps that I'm going to give you guys in this lesson for free, you guys can too. Location, I've literally given this lesson to people in every single place of the world except for Antarctica, and they have gotten clients with it, right? So I don't care if you live in Bangladesh, if you live in South America, if you live in Russia, if you live in Ukraine, like does not matter. You live in Australia, it does not matter. There has been people in your country that have taken this lesson and found success with it because they didn't make excuses. And Michael Cook, okay? So obviously there's a lot of conflicting strategies. There's a lot of conflicting approaches. One thing I can tell you guys right now is that if you're going to bake a cake, you follow 7 recipes or do you follow 1? You follow 1, right? And Michael Cook, what he was doing is he was trying to follow 7 different recipes. He was over-consuming YouTube content. He was buying courses left, right, and center. As you can see, he spent close to $40,000 in internet marketing education. And then he finally settled down. He followed the exact steps that I'm going to share with you guys in this video. He didn't get distracted. He focused for just a little bit. And he found success, okay? So before I continue, I need to know that you will not let these things stop you from success. Capi?
Say it out loud. Say, I will not let it stop me.
Okay, and while I go through this, you can think about your why, right? Because without a strong why, you're destined to fail. If your why is to buy a Lamborghini to flex on your ex-girlfriend, SMMA probably isn't for you. Therapy is. Anyways, today we're going to cover how to choose a wildly profitable niche that is also as easy to sign SMMA clients, how to instantly build massive rapport with your prospect and make them actually want to work with you, the tribal brain trick used to unlock infinite motivation, and then how to leverage hybrid selling and close literally everyone who needs your service. All right, let's get started. Secret number 1. How to choose a wildly profitable niche that also has easy to sign SMMA clients. So the most common question that Stefan and I get asked is blank niche good? How often do you get asked this question?
Too many times.
Okay. And when somebody asks me, is blank niche good? I respond with, I have no idea because I don't know who you are and I don't have context into your life, right? And here's the story of Wyatt. Okay. When Wyatt first started his SMMA, it was actually months ago, probably close to a year ago now. And he followed the traditional SMMA path. He watched some YouTube videos and some YouTube guru that told him that he needed to pick a high ticket niche so he could be profitable and make a lot of money. And he was in the med spa industry. And Wyatt, a 17, 18-year-old kid, man, was reaching out to these med spa owners, making crazy guarantees, right? Nobody was interested. And Wyatt quit SMMA and considered it a scam. He's like, I reached out to 500 people. Not a single one of them said yes. This doesn't work. It's a scam. Okay. Wyatt's second time around, he picked a niche that he resonated with. Wyatt's personally an MMA fighter. So he really understands MMA. He knows the industry inside and out because that's been his entire life. He went into the MMA industry because he resonated with that niche and it also had potential. And he got 3 clients in 24 hours as a complete beginner after failing with his first agency 6 months prior. Okay. So the framework to find a wildly profitable niche is to first find a niche that you resonate with. Second, assess the market potential. A third is to multiply the potential by resonation to find the winning niche. Okay. So resonation, how much do you relate to the niche and the people who work inside the industry? And I don't say this because you need to follow your passion, but because it'll make sales and client relationships a breeze. Okay. So ask yourself, what are your jobs? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? What are things that you like to do in your spare time? What are things that you know about, right? And what I want you to do is I want you to write a list of all these different things. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, decide how much you resonate with your niche. Okay. So once you've written down, 5, 10, 20, 30 different things, just quickly, 9 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 7 out of 10, all the things that, understand, have done, and have experience with in your life. Okay. Step number 2 is assess the market potential. Okay. So here are the 4 key questions that you want to be asking while you go through each of the things that you wrote down that you have some resonation with. Number 1, are they easy to target, right? Can you easily contact the decision makers, right? Number 2, are they an evergreen offer, which means do they offer their services or products all year round? For example, working with a Christmas store would not be a good idea because you're going to have a tough time making sales in August. Okay. Are they in pain, right? Is this somebody who's actively trying to get more customers, right? If you were helping mask companies sell more masks during COVID, right, you wouldn't have much success because they wouldn't need any help getting more customers, right? And the last one is purchasing power. Now, one of the things that I can tell you is that most of the time you guys complain that your niche is broke and it's not. You suck at sales. RSC makes real good amount of money. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to disclose numbers on this here right now. Most of our leads have less than $100 in their bank account. Okay. So it's not about, most of the time, like you saying your niche is broke is what you're doing is you're blaming your niche, right? And do you know what happens with blame? Blame has power. When you blame your niche, well, now your niche has the power over you. When you blame yourself for not being good at sales, well, now you hold the power to get better at sales so you can make more money and take control of your life. Okay. That being said, in rare cases, you are in a niche where people just don't have the money to be able to, afford these high ticket services. Like, for example, I would not want to service farmer market basket weaving companies, right? Because a farmer's market basket weaving company that's run by a solo entrepreneur, who's a 67-year-old female, like nothing against that type of business. It's obviously a passion project, but that type of company isn't going to have the money. So pick a niche that has purchasing power. And once you understand that they do have purchasing power, if you then start to think that, oh, this niche is broke, understand that no, they're not broke. You just suck at sales, right? If when you're doing your initial research, you can conclude that this niche does have money, they do have money. If they're telling you that they don't have money, it's because you suck at sales. Okay. Potential. So for every yes that you get, I want you to add 2.5 to your score here, 2.5 points to your score here. And then the last thing to do is to multiply the potential by the resonation to find that winning niche. Okay. So you take your resonation. So say you resonated with them a 9 out of 10, and then the potential. So they were, for every 2.5, it was yes, 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 yes. You got 4 yeses. So it'd be 9 times 10 and your niche score would be 90, right? As a beginner, anything over 70, you're good to go, right? That's more than enough potential. And that's more than enough of a highest score to work with. Okay. So a story is a guy who's actually in the RC Inner Circle, but this isn't him personally. He had a friend, female friend actually, and she had no business background at all, nothing whatsoever, but she picked a niche that she really resonated with. And 26 hours later, she booked her first meeting. And all she did was watch the free course, which is basically a very similar content as to what I'm talking about in this video. Okay. Emery Britt, he, changed his niche from earlier this week and he got 5 clients in a week, right? Because he picked a niche that he resonated with, right? He had another agency. That agency wasn't going bad, ran into a lot of problems, picked a niche that he really resonated with and signed 5 clients in his first week. Okay. That is the power of picking a niche that you resonate with. Okay. Stefan, what are your take on, niche resonation and all that kind of stuff?
So when you resonate with a niche, it makes talking to them so much easier. Like if right now you were to go talk to your friends or your parents or your school buddies, you would have no problem with them because you relate to them in some way, right? You can talk to them about school, or you can talk to them about whatever the case is, right? Like, have you ever met someone where you randomly figure out and you learn something about them that you also are really good at? Perhaps you meet someone that plays hockey and you're like, oh, I'm a hockey player too. All of a sudden you guys become best buddies, right? So when You pick a niche that you resonate with when you hop on sales calls, when you hop on demo calls, when you even send DMs. The lingo you speak is very much similar because you understand that kind of person, right? And in the whole world of business, the one thing, if you could really isolate what a prospect really wants to do, is they want to feel understood. And so when you know a lot about them, it's really easy for you to understand them, and then they feel understood and they're happy because they're like, oh, this guy actually cares about me. This guy knows what I'm talking about. And so it makes talking to people and DMing them, the whole sales process, so much easier.
Secret number 2, how to instantly build massive rapport with your prospects and make them actually want to work with you. Stefan,
this is me.
This is his story. Okay. So some of you guys may not know this, but Stefan was actually my video editor for my first agency. So that agency that you saw where I was, got all those bullshit awards and whatnot, Stefan was a video editor for me and helped me service my clients. And then after I moved on from that agency to my second agency in the gym industry, Stefan and I we didn't really have any work to do together. So we didn't really talk a whole lot. And then probably about a year ago, I got a text out of the blue from Stefan, and he called me up and he was like, hey, can I pick your brain? Right. And then he then proceeded to tell me how you've sent, all these messages, you're on LinkedIn, you're doing all this kind of stuff, and you're getting absolutely nowhere. And you just wanted to know, like, how can I get clients for my agency? Right. And then what we did is I talked to him, and I identified the problem. And the problem is, what I'm going to talk to you through this presentation here and through this second secret. Right. And then once we solve this within Stefan's agency, sends a few hundred DMs, and he's, well over 100K a month or 100K a year. Right. So basically, the framework that we did with Stefan, and then we've since then done for hundreds of people elsewhere, is first of all is to build subconscious rapport using ChatGPT. Eavesdrop on. We didn't actually use ChatGPT for Stefan, but this is what we would do now because more refined and better system, because we've always been improving. Eavesdrop online communities to identify the problem, and then leverage totem pole positioning and make irresistible, trustworthy offers. Okay, so rapport is not built by what you say, but by how you say it. You hop on the call and you ask about the weather, you're not building rapport. As a matter of fact, you're breaking rapport, because they know that the only reason that you're asking about the weather is to try and build rapport, and then them knowing that you're just trying to build rapport is actually helping you, it's actually hurting you by making you lose rapport. Okay, so I met this guy at a mastermind event where it was only 7-figure entrepreneurs that attended this mastermind event. And when he was starting his agency, he sent thousands of DMs and he got basically no results. Then he started to go to trade shows, he started to go to events, and he started to learn the industry lingo. He started to hang out with people inside of his industry. He began to use that in his messaging, use that lingo, use that slang when he was on sales calls, use that slang in his outreach messages. His agency does over $250K a month, and he hasn't spent $1 on ads. Everything that he's done has grown through referrals and outbound organic cold messaging. Okay. So step number 1 is to understand the culture, right? And so if you're in Spain, you're welcome to sit at the beach topless, right? You're welcome to show up to the beach with no clothes on. But if you do that in Canada, you get arrested, right? The only difference is the two cultures, right? And so you have to understand the culture of which the people you are communicating with, right? So if you are communicating with people in the UK, it's going to be a different culture than if you're communicating with people in Canada, which is going to be not really different. So we'll use a different country, which is going to be different than, if you're communicating with clients in Mexico. So step number 1 is before you, begin to target an area, do some research, learn the slang, right? Maybe even watch like a movie or a documentary on people in that country to begin to understand like how this culture operates, right? Because that is subconscious rapport, right? That is how you build subconscious rapport. And then the second thing is to begin to understand the industry, right? So the way people talk in the gym industry is different than the way people talk in the legal industry, which is different than the way people talk in the painting industry, right? And so a joke that might have a gym owner laughing on the floor, rolling on the floor laughing, might piss off a lawyer, right?
Might get you sued.
Yeah. How you show up to a sales call when you're speaking to a gym is different than how you show up to a sales call when you're speaking to a lawyer, right? And so what you guys can do is that instead of spending months and attending trade shows, you can shortcut your way to understanding the lingo by using ChatGPT. Okay, so you go into ChatGPT, you type in slang words in painting industry, and you're going to get a list of slang words, right? And then when you're doing your outreach, when you're on your sales calls, when you're doing your follow-ups, try and include these slang words, because that's subconsciously going to build rapport, and that's subconsciously going to make your prospect think that this guy actually understands what he's talking about. This guy actually understands the industry. He's not just another marketer. This guy actually gets what we're doing here, right? And once they feel like you understand them, they're gonna be so much more open to having that conversation with you, and they're gonna trust you a lot more, right? Part of the reason why RSC has seen such massive growth in such a short period of time is because I understand everything about the people that we have the blessing of working with. I understand all the problems. I understand, what they find funny, right? The reason our email list is crushing it right now is number one is because we never ever sell anything in the email list, but that's a whole different story. And number two is because every single email has people laughing because I really understand the culture and the slang words and the industry that I'm in. Now, I only have this deep level of understanding because I've been in it for 5 years, right? But the deeper of a level of understanding that you can have within your industry and within your niche, the better. Okay. Do you have anything with that? Building subconscious rapport?
No, basically just what you said. The email list is, if you guys aren't already on it, you want to get on it because it's hilarious, is all I'll say.
Step number 2 is to eavesdrop online communities to identify the problem. Okay. So when I first started in the gym, my gym industry, I made this ridiculous offer that I was going to add $10,000 a month in MRR to their business, or I was going to refund them. Okay. The problem is nobody actually cared about that offer because the gym owners that I was speaking to were broke and they just wanted to be able to keep their doors open, right? Their goal was not to make $10,000 a month in MRR. Their goal was to keep their gym doors open. So when I switched my offer to, I'll make sure you never have to worry about payroll again, that's when things began to take off. Okay. So that's why you want to go into Facebook groups to find the real problems that your niche has. Right. And now you might be thinking, oh, well, I had a sales call and they said my problem is X, or they said their problem is Y. But you have to take that with a grain of salt, right? Because when they're speaking to you, they're not going to get real. They're not going to get super honest. They're not going to be super, deep with you unless they have an insane level of trust, right? What you talk about, and the problems that you share in your life to your best friend are going to be different than the problems that you share in your life to a stranger that you just met. And you have to understand that when you are speaking to your people in your niche, you are the stranger that they just met. So they're going to give you that surface level things, right? But if I really wanted to sell you something, what I would want is I would want a recording of those late night conversations that you've had with your friends, because that's where I would be able to uncover your real problems, right? And then I could leverage that to, position my service as exactly what you're looking for. And that is why going in and eavesdropping on the conversations that they're having within other people in their industry is a lot more powerful than just relying on what these people say to you on a sales call. Okay. Now, the third thing is to leverage totem pole positioning and make irresistible, trustworthy offers. Okay. So when I first started my first marketing agency, I told people that I was Vancouver's #1 digital marketing agency. And this is what I looked like. I was an 18, 19-year-old kid with this camera. And I was telling everybody that I was Vancouver's #1 digital marketing agency. And as you can imagine, nobody believed me. I gained no trust with people. And as a result, I made no money, right? But then I switched my messaging to, listen, I'm a 19-year-old hustler. I'm trying to build my business. Here's what I can do for you. My business began to take off, okay? And if you try and pretend to be something that you are not, you're going to lose trust, right? If you try and tell people that you're Vancouver's #1 digital marketing agency when people know that you aren't, they're not going to trust you. And as soon as you lose trust, it's almost impossible to get it back, especially in short sales cycle in a fast-paced world like business. If you lose trust with a friend, like maybe you can get it back over time. That's between you and your friend. But in the prospects, in a fast-paced life like business, it's very challenging to get your trust back, right? So you're better off being authentic, because trust is the #1 thing that you can have with a prospect. If they believed 100% of the things that you were saying were true, they would buy 100% of the time. So any times that you're lying to your prospect, you're at risk of breaking trust with them. And the second you break trust with them, you're not going to sell them anything. Okay. So in order to convey authenticity and trust, I want you guys to leverage totem pole positioning, right? And totem pole positioning is when you basically say like, hey, I am at the bottom of the totem pole. And you don't try and pretend that you're the top dog at the top of the totem pole when you're not, right? Because that is that damaging admission. That's one of the most, powerful persuasion things that you can do, is when you talk about all the bad things about you to make you, to show that you're like, this is actually me. Then you hit them with, but I can do this for you, right? When you've just admitted all the bad things about you, all of a sudden you're very trustworthy. And so then when you follow with, I can do this for you, that statement holds 10 times the power. Okay. And you can do this by telling your story and being honest about who you are. Okay. So Emery Britt, he failed with his past SMMA. He had 0 clients as of March 3rd. Then he had 4 as of March 31st. He restarted. He switched niches. He picked a niche that he resonated with, but then he also started to leverage more totem pole positioning. And he went from 0 to 4K in 30 days, 100% from, having this outreach method and having this outreach strategy, right? You can see, here's what he's talking about here. Okay. What are you got anything to add on that, Stefan?
Yeah. So the one thing I want to touch on is, like, business is built on the foundation of trust. Like, if there is no trust, there is no transaction to be had. And the one analogy that you've said time and time and time again that I'm going to steal here is, if some guy, let's say you're walking on the street, you're on a nice little walk at nighttime, and some guy named Mark comes up to you and says, yo man, hey, give me $1,000 and I'll give you $10,000 tomorrow. You would say, fuck off, Mark. Okay. Because you wouldn't trust him. You don't know who he is. But now let's say that guy was Mark Cuban, and Mark Cuban says, yo, give me $1,000 and tomorrow I'll give you $10,000 back. You would say, fuck it, I'll give you 2,000. You give me 20 grand back tomorrow. Sound good to me, because you trust him. And so there's no difference in the offer. Both guys are offering the same thing. As a matter of fact, I would argue Mark Cuban could say, give me $1,000. I'll only give you $5,000 back. And you'll be more likely to take him up than the random guy named Mark with no last name, because you trust Mark Cuban. And you don't trust some random guy on the street named Mark. Okay, so the offers could be the exact same. As a matter of fact, it could be even worse. But if they trust you, they'll be more likely to do business with you. So don't ever lie about shit. Be who you are, because people do business with people, not with things. So embrace who you are.
Secret number 3, the tribal brain trick that we use to unlock infinite motivation. Okay. Quinton and Wouter. I didn't put Wouter's face on here. They had a revolving door churn. They felt stuck within their agency. For every client that they signed, they also lost a client, right? That's what I mean by a revolving door, right? And it could never grow because every time they got a client, they lost a client, right? So they're always stuck at the same level, right? And then we had sat them down and say, hey, what if you 5x your input? Probably wouldn't be stuck. They 5x their input, they got 5x the output, okay? Now, it's no secret that more input leads to more output, right? But imagine if you could pop a pill that motivated you to send 1,000 DMs a day. What would happen to your business? You know how many DMs you send right now? Imagine if you sent 1,000 per day. You'd probably grow really fast, okay? Now, another question. If you were to go on a run, you're going to run alone, right? 5K run, you put your running shoes on, you walk out the door, maybe you got your music in, you're by yourself, it's a peaceful run, right? How hard are you going to try? How fast are you going to run? 50%, 60%, 70%, maybe 80% if you're training? But what if I said to you, it's you against this guy, and the winner gets to go out with the hottest chick in the city? You're probably going to run at 100%. You're probably going to run a lot faster because you're in competition mode, okay? And so the framework to unlock literally infinite amount of motivation is to join a community and find your race partner, put money on the line, and eradicate any chance of failure through outreach. And when I say put money on the line, don't worry, I'm not talking about buying a course, okay? So here are people that we have the pleasure of working with that you can see, right? You know, you see other people winning and it motivates you to work like a rocket, okay? These people here, you guys used to send 20 DMs a day. Now they're hopping in the Discord. They're saying, I decided to go for 7 DMs today because why not? Alexander bets him that he can't go for the 100, and he did. He sent over 100 that day. This was somebody who used to only send 20 DMs a day. Now he's 5x his input just because he's put himself in an environment with other winners, because it became the new normal. Shame is one of the most powerful emotions that we can feel as a human being, right? And we go to extreme lengths to avoid shame, right? And so in environments like this, you will send 100 DMs a day just to avoid shame. And what happens when you send 100 DMs a day is your company begins to grow. You begin to make money. You begin to get better at outreach. You begin to get better at sales, okay? Step number 2 is to put money on the line. Okay, so this is a story about me. For the longest time, I've had rounded shoulders, right? I played hockey, I was in school, and I spent a lot of time doing bench press, but I didn't, do proper rehab exercises, which led to rounded shoulders. I tried several times to change these rounded shoulders, but every single time I got bored and I quit. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a rehab, but doing exercise like this all day are so boring, right? Like, what do you want to do? You want to go there, you want to max out your bench press, you want to max out your squat. That's the kind of personality I am. When I go to the gym, I want to go hard. I don't want to sit there like an idiot against the wall, right? But what I did is I went to my friend and I said, hey, here's $500. Give me a 30-day workout plan. If I don't follow the plan to a T, I'll send you keep the money, right? Then what I did is after every single workout, I texted him, hey, done. And 1 month later, my problem was solved simply because I placed that $500 bet on myself. Okay. So I like to force success by creating an I can't lose situation. And I like to put money where your mouth is because I found that's one of the most motivating factors in this world. Okay. The last thing is eradicate any chance of failure through outreach. Okay. So you want to leverage this infinite motivation to make it impossible to fail.
That's what it is. Here's me again. And then I've seen people just like me, making money by just putting in work. So I decided I'm going to put my head down and work. Boom. Just collected that 2.2K Stripe payment today. And some context to that video, because that was literally me. When in RSC, I would sit on call with guys like Tony and Christian and Eon and Martin and Riley and you name it. And I'm like, respectfully, these guys are as dumb as I am. And I'm like I'm sitting here watching Tony speak about some who knows what while driving his car to the gym. I'm like, if this guy can go from $0 to 17K per month with his first agency, then surely I could do the same. And that was like the infinite motivator for me. I was like, there's literally no difference for me and them. So let me just do the thing.
Secret number 4, how to close everyone who is actually in need of your service. And I say actually because some people are in need of your service and you shouldn't pitch them. Please remember that.
True.
Okay. Here's the framework. Number one, you want to build subconscious rapport. Then you're going to draw your prospects in with a story. You're going to ask questions like a doctor, and then you're going to solve their problems as you pitch and close them. Okay. So, story from Vancouver, BC. I'm not going to reveal this person, but I guarantee you this is a true story. And I was actually at this event when it went down. Okay. So, salesman, we'll call him salesman, has an in-person meeting. Okay. Prospect, who is my friend, could tell that this salesman was a little off, right? Just a little like, okay. Prospect asked, "Where are you from?" Salesman said, "City," which he was from a city in Manitoba, place in Canada. And the prospect says, "No way. I'm from fake city, also in Manitoba." And the salesman goes, "Oh, wow. I love that place." Deal lost, right? Prospect knew that the salesman was just trying to say stuff to build fake rapport. But the prospect said, "No way. I'm from this fake city." He just made up a random name. And then the salesman's, "Oh, yeah, I love that place." Deal lost, right? Prospect lost all trust with the salesman, and there was no chance that that person was going to do business with them. Okay. So, rapport. Number one, leverage your industry research to build the subconscious connection. Use humor to break the ice. And when I talk about this on my own channel, people say, "Hey, Dylan, what joke should I say?" And that is a terrible way to look at this, right? You don't need to have some pre-canned joke, right? You don't need to, tell them a knock-knock joke, because depending on who hops on the call with you, male, female, old, young, right? That's going to change, right? So don't hit them with a knock-knock joke. Just be, show that you're a character, right? Have a little bit of humor.
I used to dance. I would
Nice.
dance while I wait for my person to join the meeting. Just dance. Stupid, but it works.
Do not ask about the weather or some BS, because as I talked about earlier, when you ask about the weather, the prospect knows you're asking about the weather to try and build rapport, and by doing that, you're losing rapport. Be human, and remember that building rapport isn't about what you say, but how you say it, okay? Framework number two, draw prospects in with a story. Okay, so Charlie, he's in the accelerator. He went over 12 on his first 12 sales calls, and he's ready to quit because the school is busy, right? But then we reviewed one of his calls, and we realized that he was just straight pitching. He wasn't telling a story, right? He wasn't building any authenticity. So we said, "Charlie, what are you doing, bro? Start telling your story. Start building authenticity, right? Before you pitch, right? Because they don't trust you. They don't believe you. They think you're just trying to take their money, right? So he started telling a story, started building authenticity, and he hit $3,000 in his first 2 months of doing that. Okay. So your story. So the first thing you want to do is you want to share your backstory, set the scene that gives your prospect a vested interest in who you are. Hey, this is my name. This is how old I am. I go to school. I don't go to school. I work at my dad's company. Right now I'm working this job, or, I started this business so long ago. Like, you just tell them raw and honestly, like, who you are. Right? And then you want to share your goal. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm trying to do this with my life. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm headed. And you talk about what happens if you fail, right? Listen, and if I don't do this, I'm going to have to stay in school. And honestly, school makes me feel depressed. So I need this. I need to make this work, right? I'm just making something up right off the top here, right? But you can see, like, that is how you tell your story, right? And then share how you discovered your current opportunity, right? And, I was actually hanging out with this person, and then I was introduced to this, and I was like, "Oh my God." And this guy like crushed it. This guy makes like $100,000 a month doing this thing, right? And he began to show me everything that he was doing. And I just became obsessed with it, right? And that's how I built out this framework that I'm going to share with you right now. And then you want to ask questions like a doctor. Okay, so if I was to walk into a doctor's office, or if you were to walk into a doctor's office and you were sick and you had all these problems, and before you even sat down, or before the doctor even asked you any questions, he gave you a bottle of pills, you'd probably be a little bit freaked out, right? You'd probably be like, "Hey doc, like, don't you want to know a little bit about my situation before you prescribe me the proper solution?" Right? And that's what happens when you pitch to your prospects without asking and understanding their situation, right? That's how they feel. Okay. So you want to find out how they currently generate new business. You want to find out what they like and they don't like about that. You want to dig into what they don't like, and then you want to take notes, which you can use later in their sales process. Okay. Now, what you're going to see that I did not do here, right? What most gurus will do and most people will do is they'll ask this question, ask that question, ask this question, ask that question, ask this question, right? But what happens when you do that? It turns into a job interview. It turns into an interrogation. The prospect's guard goes up, and you don't get that real information, right? So the reason why I didn't give you guys a bunch of questions is because you don't want a bunch of pre-canned questions, right? You want to have a conversation with your prospects, and through that conversation, uncover these issues, right? Uncover this information in conversational format. You don't want to just sit there and interrogate them. "Oh, I got some questions for you," and then just start questioning them, right? Because that is going to increase sales pressure, right? That is not how you want to be selling in 2023 going into 2024, okay? Step number 4 is solve their problems as you pitch and close. So as you can see right here, I said to take notes because you're going to use these later. And here's where you're going to use these notes. Okay. So one thing that I want to tell you right off the bat is that a confused buyer will never buy. If they don't understand your product or service, they will not buy for it. They will not buy it. So you have to give them a crystal clear understanding of what they do. And you have to understand that they're not going into this call with the same information as you. They're not going into the call as somebody who's hand built your Go High Level automations. they're going into this call as somebody who doesn't even know what Go High Level is, right? So when you get super technical about Go High Level, just because you understand it, that doesn't mean they do. A confused buyer never buys, okay? So the best way that I like to, present my services and whatnot is feature so you can benefit, which means how it will impact your life, right? So if I was to sell you a drill, right? Or if I was to sell you a pen, a pen's a better example because I have this right here, right? What most people do is here's a pen, right? That's their feature. Well, the benefit is here's a pen so you can write, right? But you don't buy a pen for the pen. You're not buying the pen so you can write. You're buying the pen so you can make a to-do list, right? Here's a pen so you can write, which means you can create a to-do list so you don't forget what you have to do in a day. The to-do list, so you don't forget what you have to do in a day, is the actual reason you're buying the pen. So instead of talking about the pen, talk about the to-do list, right? Talk about the end desirable result, which you figured out right here during the questioning phase, right? Here is Facebook ads, so you can do this, which means it will get you to where you want to be, and repeat what they told you that they wanted earlier. That's why you're taking notes, okay? And then relate your service to their actual problems. Their problems aren't that they don't get leads. That is not their problem. That is like the surface level wishy-washy thing. Their problem might be that they don't have enough time to take their kid to soccer practice because they're cold calling all day long. Hey, we're going to set this up for you so you can spend more time with your son. This is going to be automated for you. We're going to have our team do this for you so you can get back to hanging out with your son. That is a lot more powerful than we're going to get you more leads. Okay. And the last thing is to leverage kind of like statements. And this is a very powerful one. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to sell somebody, Facebook ads in the real estate niche, right? But 95% of agency owners are going to hop on the call, Facebook ads and this and that and impressions and cost per lead. And realtors don't care about that. They don't even understand it, right? Because if they really did understand it, they'd probably already be doing it for themselves. So what I would do is, hey, those billboards that do you have any billboards? Or those billboards that like other realtors will buy where it's like their name and their face, but then it's like you drive by them and it's like you see the billboard, but it's like you can't even read the phone number because you're driving by at like 50 miles an hour. Well, we're going to take those billboards and we're going to put them on to people's phone in your city where they're scrolling through social media all day long and actively looking and reading at everything that they see. So instead of putting it on the side of the highway where people just drive by and don't really care, we're going to put it on their phone where people are actually giving their attention to, right? And that's what it's like running Facebook ads. That resonates with a real estate agent a lot more than, we're going to run Facebook ads and we're going to have a $7 cost, whatever. Okay. Vaughn, you got anything on this?
No, that's about as good as you can sum it up. Is don't sell the feature, sell the benefits, right? The reason why we buy a plane ticket is we don't buy a plane ticket to sit in the airport for 8 hours, getting our flight delayed, going through TSA, getting hassled all the time, and, eating some shitty airplane food. We buy an airplane ticket so we can enjoy the nice, relaxing vacation once we get there, right? The plane ride, yes, that's the feature. That is the vehicle to get to where we want to go. But what we really care about is sitting on the beach, relaxing in Mexico, right? So you want to sell the end result, right? The desired outcome, the last thing that people really want, like the reason why they're doing this. And they say, okay, we're going to get you there, and this will be the vehicle to get us there, right? No one cares about the flight. They care about where the flight is going to take them.
100%. So do you think this would work for you? If you found a profitable niche that you enjoy working with, then you built subconscious rapport to make these prospects actually want to work with you. Then you unlocked infinite motivation by surrounding yourself with winners. And then you leverage the hybrid selling technique to close them. Do you think you could become successful? If the answer is yes, then you don't need to watch another outreach video. You don't need to watch another Iman Gadzhi video. You don't need to watch another Stefan video. You don't need to watch another Dylan Wilson video. You need to take action. Tiger Woods, arguably the greatest golfer of all time. He didn't learn how to golf and then start golfing. He started golfing, and then based on the mistakes that he made, he course corrected to eventually become the greatest golfer in the world. And all great entrepreneurs do the same thing. They don't learn everything about how to start a business and then start a business. They start the business. Then through the day-to-day actions, through the mistakes that they make, the wins that they have, and then more importantly, the losses that they go through, they learn how to become elite entrepreneurs. And if you want to become an elite entrepreneur, that is the exact same philosophy that you should adapt.
Is that the end? Is that the last slide?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. There you go. Okay. Anything to end it off with?
No, I guess you just do a little outro or something.
I usually don't. I just say
okay, then perfect.
On value. I would just cut it there, honestly.